All right, guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Ball, episode 4. It's your host, Tochi, and I'm here with Spain. And we are here to wrap up the summer tournaments. We're going to talk about the Euros and the Copa America finals that happened yesterday. And yeah, let's jump right into it.
Sounds
So,
good.
starting from the top, we've got the Euro final, which ended 2-1 in favor of Spain on top of England. And then in the Copa America final, we saw Argentina beat Colombia. But I want to start by talking about the Euro final. So, Spain, did you get a chance to watch that game?
Yeah, I watched it. We tried to go to one Irish pub in Arlington, but it was too crowded, so actually went over to another spot and was able to sit at the bar, watch the game with a few friends, and turned out to be a good time. Bar wasn't too crowded and good atmosphere for a game. Lots of people tuned in, which was cool to see. I think with England playing, I'm not really sure why, but there was a lot of fans cheering for England from what I saw yesterday and during the semifinals. So it made it for a fun atmosphere to watch it with friends. Yeah, I thought the game was good. I thought Spain would win 2-1. That ended up happening. I expected Spain kind of once the end of the knockouts. I expected Spain to win. They looked the best, and I expected England to be in the finals too. But overall, good game. I'll let you talk about it a little bit more before we go more in depth. But I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, I agree. I ended up watching at home, so not doing anything too crazy for the game. But I agree. When I went out to watch the semifinal game, there was honestly an absurd amount of England fans out there. I didn't know there was such like a England
Mm-hmm.
delegation here in America, but there is. But talking about the actual game, we saw Spain take the lead early off a Nico Williams goal. I believe this was right after halftime, and then England kind of fought back. Cole Palmer comes on for Kobe Manu later in the game, and 2 minutes into being on the pitch, scores a pretty good finish off an assist, I believe, from Jude Bellingham. Don't quote me there, though. And I thought that was pretty cool to see Cole Palmer and how everyone's been calling for him to get more minutes, and he showed up in some of the in probably the biggest moment of the tournament so far. It just goes to speak about the character and the personality that guy's got. He believes he's
Mm-hmm.
a match winner, and he comes in and proves it pretty
Yep.
consistently. Unfortunately, it wasn't a winner or a goal that got them over the line today, but still a big goal for him to score. And then late in the game, we saw Oyarzabal come in and receive a cross or a low cross from Cucurella, and he finishes it. And I believe this was like 87th minute. Didn't leave much time for England to come back, and that sealed the game. Unfortunately for the English, but fortunately for Spain.
Yeah, exactly how the game went. When Rodri went off at halftime, I really thought England were going to have a little bit of an advantage, having their best player out. But that quick sucker punch early goal from Spain really was a killer to England, I thought. But England had gone down in all of the knockout games leading up to this, so it wasn't like not expected. Unfortunately, it seems like England needs that little bit of motivation to go after a team and to kind of get them in gear and going. Just unfortunately, Spain were too good at the end. Spain were really organized throughout the game, and but once England scored the equalizer, I really thought England were going to go on and win. They had all the momentum, but Spain just did a great job of managing it, and were able to produce a winner with a Yazarbal. Just another great substitute coming off the bench for them.
Yeah, I agree completely with everything you just said. Like when I saw Rodri coming off due to injury at half, I was like, "Ooh, that might be the kiss of death for Spain." And then, like you said, that sucker punch coming out kind of took the air out of the team. Spain had been controlling the game up to that point, at least with the ball. But I
Hmm.
do think England felt pretty comfortable all game, even if they didn't have the ball. They seemed like Spain wasn't really creating too big of chances, and England was able to defend well. And you just kind of figured with England's quality that they have on the team that they would nick something.
Hmm.
And then again, like you said, once Cole Palmer came in and scored that equalizer, it seemed like, oh, that was the script. You know, England has to go down, they have to come back, and they're going to get the result over the line. That's just kind of how it worked all tournament. No matter how good or how badly they played, that was what they do. And I remember even texting my friend saying, like, you know, stay calm. England can still pull this out. My friend Logan had a bet that he was wondering if he should cash out on England to win it all, and I told him hold
Mm,
that, hold it, or diamond hands, hold on, don't
yeah.
cash out, and he probably should have at that point. But it is what it is. Can't really predict the way that Spain won that game. It really did just feel like it came out of nowhere. Like I felt like I was
Hmm.
watching the game, fully expecting the game to go to extra time, and then it'd be a grind, maybe go to penalties, and then see it go from there. And then out of nowhere, Spain seemed to like just nick a goal, and you're just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, it really just didn't come out of nowhere. Even at the bar, it was. I mean, there weren't many Spanish fans there. It was a strong English contingent, but it was so quiet and dead. Everyone was taken by surprise watching, I thought. But I do want to go back to Spain's first goal. I thought that was a really well worked goal. I think it came from the right side. They broke lines pretty quickly. I think Yamal got it, and then I think he played it across the field. But I just remember them moving the ball through England's lines really quickly. It wasn't really like that much of a counterattack. I didn't feel like because England were kind of like back and set, but the way Spain moved through the lines and got it across, and then Nico Williams just one-on-one came inside and had a great finish. I thought it was a really impressive goal from Spain.
Yeah, I thought it was a really well worked goal as well. I mean, I think one thing that I thought was interesting in this game related to what you just said was Luke Shaw started the game against Lamine Yamal, who had kind of been tearing everybody up. And at least in my opinion, Luke Shaw had kind of clamped Yamal for that whole first half up until that goal. And like I wouldn't really put that goal on Luke Shaw either. Yamal just kind of drove into space towards the middle of the field, found Nico Williams, and then it seemed like Kyle Walker kind of got caught sleeping a little bit.
Hmm.
But all that to say, there weren't many chances to go by because England actually did have a good defensive setup, but it just goes to show that the quality of Spain and the quality of Yamal to be able to pick out that pass and the quality of Nico Williams to slot it away when they get the chance. It was clinical for sure.
Yeah, I thought Luke Shaw had a great game. I was unsure about him starting just because of his fitness, and he hadn't started all tournament and played very limited minutes. But I thought he looked really good, and like you said, he clamped down on Yamin Lamal, and there was a couple of times he kind of like toe poked it away, but that's what it takes when you're playing such a shifty, talented winger like that. I thought Luke Shaw was really solid for England.
Yep. Yeah. So all in all, Spain beats England 2-1. And as I look at the game, I really want to kind of have some takeaways, especially from the English side, just because I watched them so closely. And I kind of want to talk about this is where I think the problems for England lied in the tournament. And in my opinion, I think the blame has to go to Southgate, but I also don't think I'll talk about this later, but if I want to talk about Southgate's future, I still think he's a good manager for England. I just think he made some mistakes here. And I feel like a few of the high level themes that I saw was that Harry Kane wasn't used properly. And I think Phil Foden was platformed and given a lot of freedom to end up having 0 goals and 0 assists. And my issue there is that Harry Kane is the European Golden Boot winner. He had the most goal contributions in Europe, and the next closest in the top 5 leagues was Kylian Mbappe, who had 10 less than Harry Kane. So Harry Kane is not a bad player. Harry Kane is not a washed player. I saw a lot of things after the game saying that Harry Kane doesn't know how to play the striker position. There's a lot of narratives going around that maybe he's too old. They're trying to shoehorn him into a position that he can't play, similar to like Ronaldo, just based on pedigree. I don't agree with that. I think it goes back to what I said all Euros about England lacking a runner in this team, and that's who Harry Kane links up with well. And he just did not have the support needed, or he didn't have the support that he needed in order to perform as well as he needs to. And I put that down to Southgate. I think Southgate kind of viewed Phil Foden as this. He was the Premier League player of the season, and they wanted to give him freedom. They wanted to put him into the starting 11. But doing that meant that Harry Kane and Phil Foden were occupying a lot of the same spaces, and things were getting clogged in the middle. And then the defensive line wasn't being tested because no one was running in behind. And then also you have Jude Bellingham, who likes to operate in the same spaces as Phil Foden. For those that were watching closely, defensively, Jude Bellingham was essentially playing a left wing position while Phil Foden was allowed to stay centrally. And I think if you want to get the most out of Jude, you got to let him be the guy that's in the center roaming, because I think he's going to have more output than, I mean, obviously Phil Foden, who had 0 goals, 0 assists. And I don't want to knock on him too hard because he had an amazing semifinal against Netherlands. but I've been saying it the whole tournament. I just don't think the balance has been right, and I have to put that down to Southgate.
Yeah, you've been saying it all along, and I've been agreeing with it, and I think it came true again. Yeah, English weren't as effective as they could have been, should have been. Yeah, do you have more you want to talk about there, or do you want to move on? Speaking of like having to have Southgate take most of the blame, but still also getting them to the finals was impressive. Do you want to talk about his future now?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, Southgate should be given the opportunity to stay if he wants to. I think it's going to take some tactical changes on his part to figure out how to best platform his players. Like, I don't think he should go the same route of choosing a team based purely off of form from the previous season, which I think is what he did going into this Euros. He left out players like Rashford, Sterling, Harry Maguire, other players that have been faithful servants that have probably fit the system a bit better. And I think that's something Southgate will learn from and can improve upon going into the next tournaments. But I would totally understand if they're like, it's been 8 years, they haven't been able to get over the line, maybe they need to bring in something fresh. But the counterpoint to that is Southgate knows both the current crop of players and the upcoming crop of players better than anyone else in the world. He's still making it consistently to either finals or semifinals. Like, he lost in this Euro final, they lost in the last Euro final, they made it to the World Cup semifinal, and honestly probably could have and should have beat France had it not been for Harry Kane missing that penalty. So I guess it's easy to say that Southgate has been lucky and unlucky. I think he's been unlucky with the way that he's lost certain key results, but it's also, you could also argue that he was lucky to even get there because he was saved by moments of brilliance from Saka and Jude Bellingham and whatnot along the way. So all that to say, I'm kind of on the fence. I understand if both sides want to move on and start new, but I also see the logic in keeping Southgate for the long term as well.
Yeah, I'm along the same wavelength as you. If they can find a better manager, then I think they could move on, and it would improve England tactically. But like you said, he knows the system so well. He's been with the English FA for 10 plus years, or maybe 10 years even before he became a manager. I'm not sure, but I know he's been with FA for a long time. He's come through the system, knows the system, like you said, knows the players, and he's gotten them far consistently. But I just don't think, like, tactically he's that great. But again, going back to your point, I don't, like you said, he could have picked better players that would have given him more flexibility, or could have come up with a better game plan, like you said, to get in behind. So yeah, if they can find a better manager, I think there could be an improvement, but there's also a big risk there because you're kind of mixing up or making big changes to a really strong unit that's been successful, just hasn't quite gotten there yet. So I think if he wants to stay on, honestly, I think you got to give it to him one more shot, just because he's been so successful and getting them to the finals and semifinals recently, and he knows the players well. He represents England really well. Like, as a person, he's a great guy, really respectful, top-notch manager that gets along with the players well, and I know the players like him too. So I think if he wants to stay on, you got to give it to him. But if he's not sure, then it's time to move on, and he hope you find a manager that can maybe give you a little bit more tactically.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't know England's history that well, to be honest, but I would bet that he's been one of, if not the most successful England manager in a long, long time. And I really do think he deserves more credit for the culture change that he's created in England as well. I think I watched I think it was like a mini documentary or maybe it was a podcast, but they talked about the work that Gareth Southgate has done along with the FA in the behind the scenes to change the culture to where players aren't afraid to play for England. They're proud to play for England, and they fight for the badge. And, they've changed the mentality completely from in 2020 when those players missed the penalties and were ridiculed from it, to the penalty shootout earlier in this Euros where you saw every player step up and confidently put away a good penalty, and it looked like they had really changed the mentality in the squad. And I think Gareth Southgate deserves a lot of credit for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I know that's one big emphasis for him is mentality. He's brought in people to help with like just being mentally more there in terms of like taking a breath before they take the penalty, having someone meet the players when they're walking back. It's just those little details make a huge difference, especially on the big stage, especially for England, where the media is so tough on you, the fans are so tough on you. So yeah,
Yeah.
and Southgate has gotten a lot of criticism this tournament, especially early on, just because England haven't looked that great. But like you said, he's been one of the most successful managers in a long time, and he should get more credit for what he has done for England.
Enough. Well, I think that's enough on Southgate. Next, I wanted to run and talk about the tournament awards. So, this in the Euros, we saw the player of the tournament be given to Rodri, and I think it makes sense. He is one of the most successful players in the world, and he did a lot for this Spanish team. I think it's interesting that Roger got it. I thought he was great. I thought Fabian Ruiz was great as well. I also thought Lamine Yamal had a huge impact for them. I think you could have given it to any one of those three players. But, I can't complain too much with the way Roger's been able to hold things down and kind of be a single defensive midfielder for that team. And I think with him winning player of the tournament and Spain winning the Euros, he's got to be up there in the Ballon d'Or voting. I'm not really sure how that's going to shake out. I think there's a few different candidates, but Rodri has got to be at least in the top three for me between him, Jude, and Vinny.
Yeah, I think he's got a really good shot at winning the Ballon d'Or. And from someone who's played center mid growing up, I'd love to see a center defensive mid like him win it. Despite him playing for City, it would be nice for a center defensive mid to get that recognition that they usually don't get.
Yep. But we shall see. Next, we've got Young Player of the Tournament, and we've got Lamine Yamal. He won Young Player of the Tournament. I think he was electric from start to finish. Coming into the tournament, I thought it was going to be between him and Musiala to see who was going to win, and Yamal seemed to knock it out of the park. I mean, he had in the knockout stages alone, he had 5 goal contributions in 4 matches, which is pretty insane for someone that is 16 years old. That's insane for anyone, let alone a 16-year-old. I mean, CR7 has 5 goal contributions in I think 22 knockout matches or something like that. Just to put that in the context, so the run that he's on is crazy. It seems like he's going to be a generational player, and I hope that Lamine Yamal can stay healthy so that we have many, many more years of him.
Yeah, he was incredible, and he easily could have won Player of the Tournament. I feel like he maybe didn't win Player of the Tournament because there was the Young Player of the Tournament award there for him.
Mm-hmm.
But he easily could have won both if
Yeah.
that was possible. But he could have won both easily. He's incredible. The confidence
totally
he
agree.
has,
I mean,
the confidence he has is crazy. His output and consistency and everything, composure, it's all insane. He's so good.
one of my favorite moments of the tournament was his goal against who was it? His goal against France last round. Just that curler. It was just like because they had kind of got punched in the mouth early, and you thought, oh man, like can they bounce back from this? And for it to be the 16-year-old to take responsibility there and score an insane goal like that, I mean, that is storybook stuff. Let's see, and then lastly we had the Golden Boot.
Yeah, Golden Boot. Golden Boot, the way they did it this year is that they took away assist as the tiebreaker. So it was just outright, which was kind of a bummer because it was a 5-way tie between Kane, Dani Olmo, Mikatadze from Georgia, Gakpo, and even Schranz. So with it being a 5-way tie, it doesn't really feel that important. So I do think they need to bring back the assist tiebreaker to crown one single Golden Boot, which would have gone to Dani Olmo. I just think it's weird that they did it this way. But going back to Kane, he still was tied for Golden Boot despite him having a poor tournament. That's one thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing. I think for all the hate that I'm seeing on the timeline for Kane and the discussions that I'm seeing, I think it should still be called out that he did win or at least tie for the Golden Boot in a situation that was suboptimal for him. And that everyone can agree like was not his best performance. And it
Hmm.
just goes to show his quality that he still will score and contribute to the team.
Yeah, I was gonna say you mentioned this before, but people saying that Kane shouldn't play for England anymore is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not obviously not a Kane fan with him playing for Tottenham for forever, but that's just ridiculous. He's got at least like 3 more years in him. I think it's just the
Yeah.
system, and I don't think he was fully healthy this tournament, which didn't help. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
just insane talk to say he's
Yeah.
not good enough for England anymore.
You don't go from being the top goal scorer in Europe to being washed in the matter of like a few weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, yeah, shout out to Danny Olmo. I just want to give him his flowers as well. Wasn't even a starter for Spain in this tournament until Pedri went down with injury. But coming into the tournament, I remember talking to a few friends talking about Spain's depth, and I was like, I'm not sold by a bunch of the bench players, but I will say Danny Olmo is quality. Every time I watch him, I'm super impressed by him. I think I've seen very few players with like he's just got he's pretty technical in and around the box, and then his finishing is also pretty insane as well. And I would not be surprised to see him get a big move this summer.
Hmm.
I think I saw that they extended the time length for him to trigger or for another team to trigger his release clause so that he could transfer to another team at whatever the release clause price is. They extended it because he was in the tournament and they do want him to get a move away from Leipzig. So that'll be something to watch out for. I've heard Bayern mentioned and a couple other big teams, so we shall see. So moving on, that should wrap up the Euros. Actually, I did got to get one more thing off my chest. I really cannot stand that Phil Foden came out of this with that people argued with me that Phil Foden should be starting and should be playing. He came out of this with 0 goals and 0 assists to show for it. Just gotta put that out there one more time. That's an insane stat to me.
Thank you for calling that out because I didn't think he deserved to win Player of the Year in the Premier League. I guess it's a
Hmm.
little unrelated, but that. But you're not gonna call out Kabi Manu at all, Tochi? No flowers for him coming in and stepping up for England.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I got to shout out to my boys. Focused too much on the hating. Wasn't given enough love. But back to the hating. You're right. I didn't think Phil Foden deserved Premier League Player of the Season because he has moments like this where he will just disappear. And people are shouting out, "Oh, should he start over Bukayo Saka? This and that." But you saw what Saka does. He takes responsibility, scores a big goal like that late in the game, and nothing from Philip Foden, the PR merchant, who just looks good when he does things, but isn't that effective. But back to the giving flowers. Yeah, I do want to give flowers to my boy Kabi. He didn't have the best of finals. I think could have been worse, could have been better, but as a 19-year-old, it's hard to expect too much from him. There are other players in the team that I think need to step up. But during the whole tournament, I was glad to see him do well and kind of finally get the appreciation from the world that I think that he deserves, and I've been calling for all season with him at United. I remember back in December, I was like, I do think a midfield of Jude, Kabi, and Declan Rice will work really well, and I think my favorite thing about this whole tournament is that I was able to see that come to fruition, and it was appreciated by a lot of people. And I think he's a top player and will be a top player for many, many years to come. And I'm just super glad that we have him at United.
Yeah, and his 96% pass accuracy was very impressive, especially from a 19-year-old who hasn't played much for England. I think he misplaced like 5 passes. I think it was like 133 for 138. Just insane stat from a
Hmm.
19-year-old.
Yeah. It's just like similar to Yamal, obviously not the same thing because Kavi's a few minutes or a few years older, but I think he's the type of player that kind of comes in and he doesn't seem to be phased by the occasion. Declan Rice, in one of his post-match press conferences, was talking about how he loves the maturity with which Kavi plays, not just like with the ball, but he's not afraid to shout. Like him and Declan Rice were getting into it mid-game and kind of shouting back and forth. And Declan Rice was like, I love seeing that out of a youngster because he does demand that type of respect from players already
Hmm.
and he seems like he's someone that's going to be a natural leader and without having too big of an ego either. Like he doesn't seem like he's someone that cares about himself. He does a lot of the selfless work. He makes selfless runs off the ball, offers himself up to receive in tight spaces, and I think he's just a top personality with the top talent to go with it.
Well said.
You got anything left on the Euros?
Nothing else.
All right. Let's quickly move over to the Copa America. So just as a reminder, this game ended 1-0 in favor of Argentina due to a late goal in the second half of extra time from Lautaro Martinez. And then it kind of felt like it just had to be him with Messi leaving the game early with an injury. They needed someone to step up and be that hero, and he had been that hero throughout the tournament. And so, honestly, great for him that he was able to finish it off with a bang as well.
Yeah, the game was pretty cagey. Not really too much going on. There was a lot of fouling. Basically what I expected from a Copa America final, especially with it starting like an hour and 20 minutes late. Stayed up till midnight to watch some pretty poor soccer, but had to see it through. And then, Martinez came on, had a really nice goal. Had 5 goals in the tournament to win the Golden Boot. I think 3 of them were off the bench. That just goes to show Argentina's quality and depth they've got. Having a player like Lautaro Martinez to come off the bench is ridiculous. I think it was really smart by the coach to bring him on so late after the Colombian players were dead tired. And he came on with a lot of energy, made a really good run, and really great finish. Argentina's got a really, really good squad, and they're number 1 in the world and haven't lost in forever because they've got such a great squad and I think a really good coach and just great camaraderie across the whole team.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I tweeted this last night after the game, but Lautaro Martinez, and honestly, in the past, I've called him a fraud from watching him in the Champions League sometimes and like watching him kind of fluff his lines. But in this tournament, he was the definition of staying ready. Like, he came off the bench when he probably could have argued to be a starter multiple times, but no matter what, he was ready and he contributed to the team in a big way. And I think that deserves a lot of credit because a lot of players who, once they figure out they're not starting or not, or even if they aren't too bummed about not starting, to be able to come on and impact the game consistently over the span of a tournament, I think is just super impressive. And not many people do that. And so he deserves his flowers today and should hold his head high. I think he just signed an extension at Inter, and I'd love to see what he does next season going in.
Mm-hmm. He's a player that I think most people know is really good, but because he plays in the Italian league, I don't see him play that much. He's had a couple rough. I know he had one rough tournament with Argentina, where he missed some. I think it was like 2 World Cups ago, or it might have been the last World Cup, and Messi ended up saving them sometimes. But good for Martinez. I don't know if he's an underrated player, but he doesn't get as much praise. I think he is a much better striker than he's regarded as a whole compared to everyone.
Agreed. I wanted to go back to the game real quick and just kind of go back to the chaos of it, because I was sitting there watching with Courtney and we were talking, and I was saying, like, this game has just been chaotic from start to finish, including the pregame. I don't know if you guys were all tapped in to see what exactly was happening and why the game was so delayed, but there was like crowding and stampeding coming into the gates, and they eventually had to break the gates down. People with and without tickets were rushing into the stadium. People were climbing over the ticketing booth and like finding all sorts of ways to get into the stadium. One craziest one I saw was people climbing through the air vents to get in. And it's just, it was just so indicative of the chaos of a Copa America game, and especially a Copa America final. And the chaos carried over into the game. It felt like I watched more fouls and more players laying on the ground than I did actual soccer watching the game. It was not a great watch in my opinion, but I am glad with how it turned out. But yeah, I think it was very, very Copa America.
Yeah, it was on brand. If nothing else, it was on brand. Seeing the people climb through the air vents the ventilation system was the craziest thing ever. And it was like 10 people helping each other. It was just insanity. I was trying to like read up on it because a lot of people on social media were blaming the organizers and said it wasn't organized well enough. And it was CONMEBOL who was organizing it. And so I don't really know enough details about the organization, who's to blame, who's not to blame, but it was chaos. It did look like they needed more police presence or more security presence. I'm not sure who's to blame for the chaos before the tournament or before the final, but they do need to take it as a lesson learned, if nothing else. Thankfully, no one was too seriously injured from what everything I've read, but take it as a lesson learned for when we are hosting the World Cup in 2 years. I know this was CONMEBOL that was hosting it, but still there was a bunch of organizations involved, local authorities, local organizers. The key is just to get it right when the World Cup comes around in 2 years.
1,000%. 1,000%. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, probably a blessing and a curse that it was just one location that had to deal with this. And like you said, hopefully it'll be a warning for when the World Cup comes around that they need to be much more organized and have a much better game plan coming into this, because just kind of, I don't know how it was for match going fans there. I'm sure it was scary and chaotic and not ideal. That some people are like, I heard that at one point they stopped letting people in regardless of if you had a ticket or not. But even as a fan that was wanting to watch the game, for me to sit there and sit through the delay and then the game to start and for it to be the product that I did see just wasn't the best, especially with the juxtaposition next to the Euros. So hopefully they sort that out before the World Cup.
Yep, agreed. I would like to shout out James Rodriguez, though, for winning the player of the tournament. I thought it was cool that he had such a good tournament, just because he's been a really prominent player for the last decade or so. Maybe not being as good in club soccer, but he's had some really big tournaments, especially that one World Cup where he really took the spotlight. I honestly didn't know he was playing for Colombia still. Had to look up where he's playing. He's playing for Sao Paulo in Brazil. But it was cool to see him play and to show up and start and really lead his team as the captain. I thought he was especially good off set pieces. I can't remember how many assists he got, but every single cross he was putting in from a corner kick felt dangerous, like a great opportunity for Colombia, and everything. All the cross he was putting in from free kicks too. So I was just impressed by him for being a little bit older and not playing in a big established league. To come in and win player of the tournament was impressive. So shout out and flowers to James Rodriguez.
Yeah, shout out to James, Colombian cult hero, maybe just cult hero in general, honestly. I am disappointed to see that his club career didn't end up panning out as successfully as his international career, but I think he's the type of player that everybody roots for. He was so fun to watch and gave us some of the best moments, so I'm glad he got his flowers and won player of the tournament, even as a losing player. He's got any more thoughts on Copa?
No, that's all for Copa America.
Nice. So we can wrap it up real quick. That wraps up our coverage of the major tournaments. It's been super fun watching the Euros. It's been super fun watching Copa. We have some good games, some great moments coming out of there. Just a few off the top of my head. Like I said, that Lamine Yamal goal versus France. Jude Bellingham's bike to save England versus Slovakia. I'm sure there's multiple others that I'm missing. Did you have any other favorite moments?
Personally, I like Saka's goal to save England. It was cool to see Georgia do well, follow them. Seeing Albania score that early goal, that was exciting. There was another one with Italy. Italy's late equalizer was really electric. There's a lot of good moments from the tournament that made it fun. I don't know if it was like the best ever tournament, but I thought it was a fun tournament. I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, super fun, especially as someone that loves watching footy. I mean, games on all day, like almost every day, and it's been a fun little season. But I am excited to get into the Premier League season, and that moves us nicely into our wrap up here. Just wanted to end this episode by talking about what will be next for the Let's Talk Ball pod. And with the Premier League preseason starting, I plan on doing some Premier League season previews kind of as the season gets closer and as we see what summer transfers come through. We could talk through how we see the season shaping out, any players that we're excited for, teams that we're excited for, or whatnot. But really, the main goal of the pod, I think, is to talk footy, like we said, and with the Premier League coming back and all the other top leagues coming back, there's going to be a lot of footy to talk about for us. So we've got some things to look forward to with the pod. We plan on bringing on some more guests. some live streams for the game. Shout out to Bailey. I've got September 23rd marked down for Spurs United. We will be live streaming that game, and then bringing on special guests just to talk about their teams and some other aspects of the Premier League as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Still pretty early with this podcast, but I thought the summer was a good way for us to get started with this tournament. But yeah, like you said, the Premier League is where we spend most of our time watching soccer. It's what we really know the best, I think. So I am really excited for the season to come around. I've got high hopes for Arsenal, so it should be exciting. United are getting better season over season, especially with the Ineos takeover. So I think we're both really excited going into this tournament, or going into this season, and I'm excited to get to talk more about it through this podcast. And I'm also hoping to do a little FPL preview before the season starts, make it a little segment as one of our podcasts, because I'm a big FPL player. So I'm always looking forward to that as well.
Yep, super excited for some FPL. I think they started dropping the prices for the players over the last few days. So I'm ready to get back into it, ready to get back on the grind of watching footy every weekend and set my FPL lineups and whatnot. Should be a great season coming up.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it.
Well, I think that's all we got. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, thanks for all the support and the people that have been showing love. We can't wait to keep producing more. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Looking forward to it.